I think I didn't do anything wrong, just said what everyone was already thinking. But the next morning, there was a thick envelope on the kitchen table, my husband's name in bold legal print, and I realized maybe I'd lost control of the story for good. Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. The living room buzzed with comfortable chatter as our Friday night gathering wound down. Elliot sat quietly in his usual corner chair, grading papers while the rest of us, my mother Ruth, my best friend Dana, and Elliot's mother Helen, shared wine and gossip. This was our routine, but lately, Elliot's silence felt more pointed, more distant. "You know what I was thinking about today?" I announced, setting down my glass with deliberate casualness. "I ran into Dean Harrow at the grocery store yesterday." Elliot's pen stopped moving across the papers. "Dean from college?" Dana perked up, always ready for drama. "God, he was gorgeous. Whatever happened to him?" "Still gorgeous," I laughed, watching Elliot from the corner of my eye. "Still single, apparently. We got to talking, and honestly, it made me wonder." I paused for effect. Maybe I need one last night with him. You know, just to see if I still love him, to be sure about everything. The room went dead quiet. Helen's wine glass froze halfway to her lips. "Persis," Elliot said softly, not looking up from his papers. "What? It's just a joke." I forced another laugh. "I mean, everyone wonders about their exes sometimes, right? It's perfectly normal." Ruth cackled from her spot on the couch. "Oh, honey, you absolutely should. Life's too short for regrets. You deserve one last adventure before you're completely tied down." "Mom," Elliot warned, but Ruth waved him off. "Elliot, darling, you can't expect Persis to never wonder. It's healthy curiosity." Dana nodded enthusiastically. "Totally healthy. I mean, if you don't explore these feelings, they'll just fester." "Right, Persis." Helen stood abruptly, her face pale. "I think I'll put Mila to bed now." She gathered our 7-year-old daughter, who'd been coloring quietly in the corner, absorbing every word with those two knowing eyes children have. "Helen, don't be so dramatic," I called after her. It was obviously a joke. But Elliot had already set his papers aside and was walking toward the kitchen. I followed, my heart pounding with a mixture of excitement and vindication. This was exactly the reaction I'd wanted. Some emotion, some engagement from my perpetually distant husband. "Elliot, seriously, you're overreacting," I said, as he stood with his back to me at the sink. "It was just a test. I wanted to see if you even cared anymore." He turned slowly, and for a moment, I saw something flicker in his eyes. Hurt, maybe, or disappointment. But then it was gone, replaced by that infuriating calm. "A test," he repeated flatly. "Yes, you've been so withdrawn lately, so emotionally unavailable. I needed to know if there was anything left between us worth fighting for." By joking about cheating on me, in front of our mothers and our daughter. "God, you make everything sound so dramatic. Dana agrees with me." "Dana isn't married to you, Persis." I felt my face flush. "So what? I'm supposed to just accept that you don't care about me anymore? That you'd rather grade papers than talk to your own wife?" Elliot's phone buzzed on the counter. He glanced at it, and I caught a glimpse of a recording app still running. My stomach dropped. Were you recording that?" He pocketed the phone without answering and walked past me toward the stairs. "I'm going to check on Mila." As I stood alone in the kitchen, I heard Dana's voice from the living room, already spinning the story in my favor. "Men just don't understand emotional complexity. Persis is being completely reasonable." But the sick feeling in my stomach suggested otherwise. The city cafe hummed with lunch-hour energy as I slid into the booth across from Dean Harrow. 3 days had passed since the joke, and Elliot had barely spoken to me. He left for work early, came home late, and spent his evenings in his study. I needed this, needed to feel wanted, appreciated, alive again. "You look amazing," Dean said. his smile as charming as I remembered. Marriage suits you. Does it? I leaned forward slightly. Sometimes I wonder. We ordered coffee and sandwiches, falling into easy conversation about old times, mutual friends, career changes. Dean had started his own marketing firm, traveled extensively, lived the kind of exciting life I'd given up for suburban domesticity. "So what's this about wondering if you still love me?" he asked with a playful grin. "Your friend Dana mentioned it when she reached out." Heat flooded my cheeks. Dana had contacted him. She shouldn't have. I'm glad she did. I've thought about you over the years, Persis, about what might have been. His hand moved across the table, fingers brushing mine. The touch sent electricity through me, a reminder of passion I'd forgotten existed. "Elliot and I started, then stopped. Things have been difficult. He's so distant, so cold. Sometimes I feel like I'm married to a stranger." "That's rough." Dean's thumb traced across my knuckles. "You deserve better than that. You deserve someone who sees how incredible you are." We talked for 2 hours. Dean was everything Elliot wasn't. Attentive, expressive, interested in my thoughts and feelings. When he suggested meeting again, I didn't hesitate. "I should go," I said finally, glancing at my phone. Elliot would be home soon, and I'd told him I was working late at the office. "Of course, but Persis..." Dean caught my hand as I stood. "That night you mentioned, if you ever decide you need it, I'm here." I walked to my car on unsteady legs, my phone already buzzing with a supportive text from Dana. "How did it go? You deserve to be happy." But as I pulled out of the parking lot, I spotted a familiar blue sedan across the street, Elliot's car. My hands trembled on the steering wheel as I drove past, but I couldn't tell if anyone was inside. Probably just paranoia. Elliot was too passive, too trusting to follow me. Still, I took the long way home, my heart hammering the entire drive. The staff room at Elliot's high school buzzed with whispered conversations that died the moment he entered. He'd been teaching here for 8 years, respected by colleagues and students alike, but now he felt their eyes following him, their voices dropping to conspiratorial murmurs. "Hey, Elliot," called Tom Martinez from the math department. "Everything okay at home?" Elliot poured coffee with steady hands. "Fine, thanks. It's just, well, my wife heard something at book club about Persis and some guy from her past." The coffee mug felt heavy in Elliot's grip. "I'd rather not discuss my personal life at work, Tom." But the damage was spreading. By lunch, 3 more colleagues had approached him with variations of the same concerned question. Someone had posted about it on social media. Dana, probably, or one of her friends who'd heard the story secondhand. The small-town gossip mill was merciless. That evening, Elliot came home to find Persis setting the table for dinner, acting as if nothing had happened. "How was your day?" she asked brightly. "Humiliating." He set a manila folder on the counter. "Half my department knows about your joke now." Persis's face flushed. "That's not my fault. You're the one making a big deal out of nothing. If you hadn't overreacted..." "I have receipts, Persis." She froze. "What?" Elliot opened the folder, revealing printed screenshots of text messages, bank statements, and a timeline he'd meticulously constructed. "Your lunch with Dean yesterday. The ATM withdrawal near the cafe. The deleted messages Dana helped you craft." "You went through my phone?" Her voice rose to a shriek. "How dare you?" "You left it unlocked, and you're not as good at deleting things as you think." Mila appeared in the doorway, her small face creased with worry. "Why are you fighting?" Persis immediately switched tactics, kneeling to hug our daughter. "Daddy's just being paranoid, sweetheart. Sometimes grown-ups have disagreements, but it doesn't mean anything." "It means something to me," Elliot said quietly. Helen emerged from the kitchen where she'd been helping with dinner. "Persis, we need to talk." "Not now, Helen." "Yes, now." Elliot's mother's voice was steel. "You've embarrassed my son publicly. You're lying to his face. And now you're using my granddaughter as a shield. This stops now." Ruth chose that moment to arrive, breezing through the front door with her usual dramatic flair. "What's all the shouting about?" "Your daughter," Helen said coldly, "is destroying her marriage." "Oh, please," Ruth waved dismissively. "Elliot's being too sensitive, as usual. Persis is just exploring her feelings. It's healthy." "Healthy?" Helen's voice cracked. "She's having an affair." "I am not," Persis snapped. "It was lunch, one lunch." Elliot quietly closed the folder. "I'll be in the guest room tonight." As he walked upstairs, he heard Ruth consoling Persis. "Don't let him guilt you, honey. You deserve to be happy." But from the landing, Elliot could see Mila curled in the corner of the living room, tears streaming down her face, and he knew happiness was the last thing anyone in this house would find. 3 days of silent treatment had stretched into a week. Elliot moved through the house like a ghost, polite, distant, methodical. He spoke only when necessary, slept in the guest room, and spent his evenings either grading papers or talking quietly with his lawyer on the phone. I couldn't stand it anymore. "This is ridiculous." I cornered him in the kitchen after Mila had gone to bed. "You're punishing me for one mistake, one moment of weakness. Do you have any idea what this is doing to our daughter?" Elliot continued loading the dishwasher without looking at me. "Say something, anything, fight with me, yell at me, but stop treating me like I don't exist." "What would you like me to say, Persis?" His calm tone infuriated me more than screaming would have. "I want you to act like you care, like our marriage means something to you." It did mean something to me. Did? Past tense? My voice cracked. "Elliot, I made a mistake. I was confused, lonely. You've been so distant lately, so emotionally unavailable. I felt invisible in my own marriage." He finally turned to face me, and I saw something I'd never seen before in his eyes, complete detachment. "So you decided to have an affair." "It wasn't an affair. It was lunch, one lunch with an old friend." "And the texts, the plans to meet again, the one night you joked about in front of our families." I felt cornered, desperate. "You're twisting everything, making it sound worse than it was." "Am I?" He pulled out his phone, scrolling to a screenshot. "This is from yesterday. Can't wait to see you again. Elliot will never understand what I need." My stomach dropped. I'd thought I'd deleted that message. "You're spying on me now, reading my private conversations. This is emotional abuse, Elliot." "No, Persis. This is me protecting myself and our daughter from the fallout of your choices." "Our daughter? You're the one tearing this family apart. You're the one sleeping in another room, refusing to work on our problems." "What problems, exactly?" "The problem where I work 2 jobs to support this family. The problem where I come home every night, help with homework, do housework, and try to spend quality time with my wife and daughter. Or the problem where I'm not exciting enough for you anymore." His words hit like physical blows. "That's not... You don't understand." "I understand perfectly. You're bored. You want drama, excitement, validation from other men. And when I don't react the way you want, you escalate." "Stop it. You're making me sound like some kind of monster." "I'm stating facts." He closed the dishwasher with deliberate calm. "Tomorrow, Mila and I are going to stay with my mother for a while. You can't take her away from me." "I'm not taking her away. I'm removing her from a toxic environment while we figure out what comes next." I grabbed his arm, desperation clawing at my chest. "Elliot, please. I love you. I love our family. This was all just a stupid mistake." He gently but firmly removed my hand. "If you loved our family, you wouldn't have risked it for lunch with your ex-boyfriend." That night, I lay awake in our empty bed, staring at the ceiling. From down the hall, I could hear Elliot's quiet voice through the guest room door, talking to someone. His lawyer, probably, or his brother Simon. When I woke up the next morning, Elliot and Mila were gone. On the kitchen counter sat a single business card. Morrison and Associates, Family Law. The silence in the house was deafening. The law office smelled like leather and disappointment. I sat across from Elliot and his attorney, Sarah Morrison, feeling like I was watching someone else's life implode. "Mrs. Vane," Morrison said, spreading documents across the polished table. "Your husband is seeking legal separation with the intent to file for divorce. He's also requesting primary custody of your daughter." "Primary custody?" My voice came out as a squeak. "That's insane. I'm her mother." "A mother who's been having an extramarital affair," Morrison replied coolly. "I was not having an affair. It was lunch." Morrison opened a thick folder. Text messages spanning 3 weeks. Bank records showing cash withdrawals near your meeting locations. Social media posts discussing your marriage problems. And audio recording of you publicly stating your intention to spend the night with another man. Each piece of evidence felt like a nail in my coffin. "Elliot, you can't be serious about this. We can work it out. We can go to counseling." "I suggested counseling 2 years ago," Elliot said quietly. "You said I was being dramatic." "That was different. I wasn't ready then, but I am now." "The court date is set for next month," Morrison continued. "In the meantime, Mr. Vane will have temporary custody, and you'll have supervised visitation on weekends." "Supervised? Like I'm some kind of criminal? Like you're someone who's demonstrated poor judgment that may affect your daughter's well-being?" I turned to Elliot, pleading. "You're using Mila as a weapon. This isn't about her. This is about your hurt feelings." For the first time, Elliot's composure cracked. "My hurt feelings? Persis, our daughter asked me why Mommy doesn't love Daddy anymore. She's been having nightmares, wetting the bed, asking if it's her fault we're fighting. This has everything to do with her." The words hit me like a physical blow. "She said that?" "Among other things. Helen's been taking her to a child psychologist." I felt the room spinning. "You had no right to make that decision without me." "I had every right to get my daughter the help she needs when her mother was too busy texting her boyfriend to notice she was falling apart." The meeting ended with papers thrust in front of me. Temporary custody orders, asset freezes, a restraining order preventing me from taking Mila out of state. Elliot's signature was already on everything, neat and decisive. That afternoon, I met Mila at the park for our first supervised visit, with Helen watching from a nearby bench like a hawk. My daughter seemed smaller somehow, more fragile. "Mummy, why can't I come home?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "You are home, sweetheart. You're with Daddy and Grandma Helen." "But why aren't you there too?" I glanced at Helen, who was listening to every word. "Mommy and Daddy are having some problems right now, but it's not your fault, and we both love you very much." "Are you getting divorced like Emma's parents?" The question hung in the air like a death sentence. "We're figuring things out." When the visit ended, Mila hugged me tightly, and I felt her tears soaking through my shirt. As Helen led her away, my daughter looked back once, her face a mirror of confusion and loss. I sat alone on the park bench as the sun set, finally understanding that Elliot hadn't been bluffing. This wasn't a dramatic gesture or a bid for attention. This was the methodical dismantling of our life together, executed with the same quiet precision he brought to everything else. My phone buzzed with a text from Dana. "How did it go? Are you okay?" For the first time, I didn't have an answer. The final hearing lasted 3 hours. I sat with my court-appointed attorney. I couldn't afford anyone better after Elliot froze our joint accounts, and watched my marriage dissolve into legal terminology. "The court awards primary custody to the father," Judge Martinez announced, "with supervised visitation for the mother every other weekend, pending completion of family counseling." "Your Honor," I stood shakily, "this is my daughter. I've never hurt her, never—" "Mrs. Vane, please be seated. The court has reviewed all evidence, including testimony from the child's therapist regarding the emotional trauma she's experienced. This arrangement is in the minor's best interest." Elliot sat motionless beside his lawyer, his face unreadable. We hadn't spoken directly in 6 weeks, communicating only through attorneys and brief supervised exchanges during Mila's visits. The property settlement was equally devastating. Elliot kept the house. He'd been making the mortgage payments alone since I'd been served. I got my car, half our savings, which wasn't much, and my personal belongings. The respondent has 30 days to vacate the family home, the judge continued. All communication regarding the minor child must go through the court-appointed mediator. 30 days. 30 days to pack up 8 years of marriage and find somewhere else to live. After the hearing, I waited in the parking lot, hoping Elliot might say something, anything, to acknowledge what we'd lost, but he walked past me like I was invisible, Helen and Mila flanking him protectively. "Daddy, is that Mommy?" I heard Mila ask. "Yes, sweetheart. Wave goodbye." My daughter's small hand fluttered in my direction before Helen ushered her into the car. Elliot never looked back. The house felt cavernous when I returned to pack. Most of the furniture would stay. Elliot had bought it, and I had nowhere to put it anyway. I focused on clothes, photos, a few books. Personal items that suddenly seemed meaningless without the context of the life they'd belonged to. I found Mila's diary wedged between her mattress and bed frame, forgotten in the rush of her move to Helen's house. The last entry, written in her careful second-grade handwriting, made my knees buckle. "Daddy is sad and sleeping alone. I think Mommy doesn't love us anymore. I wish I was a better girl, so she would stay." I sank onto her empty bed, finally crying for someone other than myself. Ruth had stopped calling after the custody hearing, disappointed that I'd let Elliot win. Dana had distanced herself when the gossip turned ugly and her own marriage came under scrutiny. Dean had ghosted me completely after Elliot's lawyer contacted him about potential testimony. I was alone in a way I'd never experienced, surrounded by the echoes of choices I couldn't take back. On my last day in the house, I walked through each room one final time. The living room where I'd made my joke. The kitchen where Elliot had quietly documented my betrayal. The guest room where our marriage had effectively ended. I left my keys on the counter and walked toward the front door, my footsteps hollow in the empty space. As I reached for the handle, I heard the distinct sound of a lock turning from the outside. Elliot stood on the porch, key in hand, his face impassive. "The locks have been changed," he said simply, "for security." I nodded, unable to speak. This was it, the final severing of our connection. No more shared spaces, shared responsibilities, shared anything. "Elliot, But he was already walking back to his car, where Mila waited in the passenger seat. She pressed her face to the window, her breath fogging the glass as she watched me. I stood on the sidewalk, watching my family drive away, finally understanding that some jokes aren't funny, some tests destroy what they're meant to measure, and some regrets echo forever in the silence of an empty house where love used to live. The sound of the car disappearing around the corner was the last sound Elliot ever made in response to me. In the end, his silence said everything. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next story. Write in the comments from which city you are watching.